Hello, gang. Welcome to Sketching with Izzy. We are a little bit late today, so I am completely bypassing all of that intro nonsense. We don't need that shit. Hopefully you can hear me all right. There's a little bit of music playing for you, and life is good and sweet. The reason I'm late is I had a meeting with the social media director for the new company. So we were discussing strategies for how I might implement, what I'm doing with social media and Twitch, and help kind of promote and build a community for the game that we're going to be making. I mean, from scratch. We're literally in the first days of building a brand new game. Nothing exists yet. So I think we both agree, myself and the social media director, that it would be really interesting to get people involved early on and get some engagement and investment in it. So I thought, it was worthwhile to delay today's show just a little bit for this discussion. So I'm really looking forward to the plan she comes up with. She seems really cool, like she's on top of this stuff. So I'm excited. I have up here my Frit painting from not yesterday, but the day before. We just did a little bit of refinement on a sketch that I had. Let's see. This was the original sketch, which I still love. It's got that kind of vibrancy that I dig and that I prefer with sketches. But I decided let's go ahead and finish it out. It's Halloween. Let's do a Halloween painting. So here we are. Dimesh, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Apologies specifically to my UK folks. I know it's real late. I'm sorry. I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man that does the bad things. But I did it for you. Okay. My thinking is, let's refine the robot bits today, and maybe think about Irina. Hi, welcome. Glad you could join. I'm sorry I'm keeping you up so late. Hopefully you can hang for a little bit. Get something fun out of this. We're gonna paint some robot parts. If we come up with, just in discussions, some fun stuff to paint, it might be interesting, I think, to maybe plan out some horror paintings, because it's October. It's the Halloweener times. Thanks, Irina. It is horrifying. I'm actually surprised you like it. I know you are tender about my terrifying and awful paintings. All right, let's see. What do I want to do with these little bits of crabby critter bits, chunks, whatevers, whatsy who's it's. I don't know. Don't know for sure. I think whatever it's going to be, we need to kind of... It's going to be about sort of doing some nice indication about the material and like the complexity of the thing, rooting it in a little bit more reality. Like the headpiece, the part that's kind of sprouting out of the head, there's not a lot of logic to it, but there's enough information that it kind of feels... it's readable. It's legible, if you will. Some music going, because music soothes savage something or other. Rock music. All right. I got some snacky snacks, don't mind me. I have not eaten anything today. Been working all day. Keto snacks are weird. I will tell you that now. The thing you miss the most, though, with keto is crunchy stuff, I'm telling you. So anything that gives me crunch makes me happy. I'm not complaining, though. I eat an inordinate amount of bacon. So, ha! Abed, hello! Welcome. Is November going to be a month for sweet, happy, and lovely pretty paintings? It can be. I don't usually do theme stuff too much, but we can do kind of like genre themes maybe. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I tend to just go where my heart leads me though. Just follow the wind. I'm a leaf on the wind. Watch how I soar. It leads me to horror and monsterdom. Not always. I do cute things and sad things, and I do all sorts. But I do love horror. I just like weird shit. I like to push the limits a little, you know? I can make Parmesan crisps. That's true. I've done it once now. They weren't perfect. I think I made them a little too thick, so they weren't as crunchy. Well, most of them weren't as crunchy, but they were really good. I love them, but goddamn, they're so expensive if you buy the brand stuff. Who knew that Parmesan would be so damn spendy? I mean, they give it away in packets at the pizza place, all right? Stop ripping me off, people. I'm gonna make you cry. What? Why? Don't cry. Is it because I eat so much bacon? I know that's upsetting for some. I think that is a fair assessment. You have me dead to rights, Damage. It is true. My heart does lead me to the purple, squishy, tentacle doom cuteness. Let's just face it. Like, I never grew out a hot topic. I is what I is. Oh, the Firefly reference? Yeah. Wash is my hero. Do I use a curved screen? Yes, my main screen that I'm looking at when I'm painting is a curved screen. It's new for me. I've never used one before. I have problems with it, to be honest. I think a flat screen for painting, for doing digital illustration, is probably better. Curved screen's great for gaming, and I love it for that. I've been playing a lot of 2D Metroidvania Carrion on it lately, and it's so fun for gaming because it kind of has that enveloping feel. But for a painting surface, yeah, honestly, I would recommend against it. It's when you have the curve, you have more opportunity for glare. So I mean, I'm surrounded by lights, right? It picks up lights in different corners here and there, so they pick up that. Also, I have noticed that there are very subtle, depending on your position, differences in value and color, and that is totally unacceptable for us as painters. So generally when I'm painting, you'll notice I'm trying to keep like kind of a center position. You can't, oh shit, I haven't changed my monitor size. Hold on one second. You guys aren't even seeing my entire monitor so that's the other thing is this monitor it's freaking huge. It's 2560 by 1080. So you're only seeing about 3/4 of my whole monitor right now. So I got to switch. Every show that I do on Twitch, I have to actually change this, and I forgot today. So I'm gonna apply it now. Let's see if it freaks everything out. We didn't get a crash. We're good. We're holding it. So now you can see the entirety of the screen. So this space that you see right now that I've compressed it down to, that's basically the working space I use anyway. So I have I spent money on an extra 6 inches to either side that I barely use because the colors are different. The values are a little bit different because of that slight curve. So yeah, I think you're right. Go for the straight. My secondary monitor was my primary monitor for a while there. It's a VH240A Hewlett Packard. I love it. It's a great monitor. It's much cheaper. Just make sure that whatever you get is top of the line in regard to contrast and color. Yeah. What is an ISP panel monitor? I don't even know. Huh. Yeah, I haven't needed this kind of tech in so long. I mean, all the Patreon videos that I was doing before and basically everything you've seen for the last 5 years was done on a laptop. It was, like the screen was like this big. Way better angle viewing. And IPS is for, that's a kind of curved monitor, or that's sort of your standard flat LED or LCD, whatever. Yeah, there's tons of tech stuff that I'm having to learn on the spot because I have effectively been on another planet for 5 years. So yeah, for that goes for everybody. If you're going to be doing painting for work, and your monitor is going to primarily be work specific, painting specific for work, go flat screen. Don't get the curve. The curve is cool, but it's definitely more of a gaming and movie watching conceit, I think. It's just personal opinion, grain of salt, etc. Oh, I know that's gonna work. I'm gonna have to actually do it by hand. Boo. If you move your head, the contrast doesn't change with an IPS. Oh. If you press on it and it doesn't distort, it's an ISP, which is usually better. Here we go. Like, how much distortion? How hard do I have to push? Like, is this just a trick to get me to like punch a hole through my monitor? I don't like where this is going, guys. I'm feeling like I might be getting manipulated. That's right, Thug. Welcome, Hammy. 1 pound of pressure. I think mine are ISP because they don't. My previous, like my laptop monitor, if you barely touch it, it does distort and I get little light blooms. How many Z-volts do we need for Izzy to punch his monitor? I would say at least a cool 5 mil. Because it's got to be able to pay for a new monitor, I reckon. And I mean, this MSI one, the curved one, was not fucking cheap. But it's all tax deductible, baby. Supposedly. We'll see, actually. That may change. Thanks, Obama. IPS, okay. Okay, yeah, then my iPad doesn't do that either. I did not know that. So they basically spent a lot of money to design monitors that babies couldn't destroy. That's great. Awesome. Good job. Well done. God damn it. Fuck. I'm just ignoring my sketchy part lines because they're kind of garbage anyway. Just kind of squeeze them out. Gonna flatten these out just a touch. And have graded grade times and respond rates, which is better for gaming. I have no idea what the fuck you just said to me. I'm gonna take it as an insult, and you should be punished. Don't use your big words on me. It just makes me mad. It infuriates me. Ugh. Stop being so smart, guys. Why is everybody so smart? Jesus. Gray to gray. That's right. That's right. Ooh, one other question for you guys. I don't think I've seen a whole bunch of other channels do it, although I'm sure it's possible. What do you guys think about art guests? My buddy Lisa hit me up last night saying she was interested in doing a guest spot one of these days. I have not done it. I don't even know how to do it, so I'm going to have to spend a day figuring that out with her. But she's talked about it, and I think that would be kind of fun, right? It'd be cool to get some of you on too. You can do little sketch sessions or something. Do some painting. Maybe do a critique session or something like that. I don't know. Definitely one of the things I'm noticing that people tend to really respond to here on Twitch is critique. So maybe that might be the way to go with maybe like one show a month or something like that. Just make it like a critique, like a super quick critique show. I don't know. Just always trying to think of ways to make this more fun for y'all so people aren't falling asleep. Stop sleeping in here, goddammit. It hurts my heart. You break my heart when you do that. No! My coconut snacks! Yum, yum, yum. Floor food. Yum, 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 yum. It's got that floor seasoning on it. Yum. I don't know what the hell it is. Pretty good though. It's called Dong. Dong coconut chips. Have a slice of Dong. Tastes better with flour. Ow. Nope. No layer naming. Definitely not gonna happen. It was an A. Dong with an A. See that little... See, that's how you know it. This right here, that's how you know it's a boy O. That's a boy O. If it doesn't have that, it's a girl O. You see? We are sexing letters now. I really don't know what I'm getting at with these bits here. I don't really have a plan per se. I just want to make sure that it looks like some kind of robot. Something? I don't know. Usually it's better to have a plan. If you're just sort of winging it like this, it doesn't always come out great. I guess that's kind of an upside / downside to doing something that's more horror is you have less accountability. Just has to be spoopy. I was in such a hurry to get onto the stream that I forgot to pour myself a drink. And that is not good. I owe you a Z-Volt layer naming. Do I? From when? I don't remember this. This sounds shenanigansy. What do you want to layer? We'll test it. We'll see. What are you thinking? Very dependent. Actually, yeah. You know what? I have never run the ad break before. Would you guys mind terribly if I took a break to go and make a drink? I've never done it. This is exciting. What a thrill. You'll see me all out of breath, crying because I had to run up a set of stairs. Punchable monitor. All right, here goes nothing. I'm going to first switch to my burb, and then I will run the break. I will be back in 2 shakes of a man's tail. Wait, that's not how that goes. You stayed! Aw. You guys are the sweetest. Thank you. I went and got one of my SodaStream sodas. Which I guess is technically a keto drink, Dimesh. Any layer is called punchable monitor. Alright. We'll do the active layer. There we go. Enjoy that, Hammy. That's just for you. You heard there's some Flickr free models? I think that has to do with the, what is it, sync? No, it's the hertz, right? The hertz. The flicker happens because it's running on the same hertz, or it's running on different hertz than than the power supply you have. Does your monitor flicker, Irina? Yeah, I really like LG monitors. LG, HP, and Samsung tend to be my favorites. This MSI one is great. I don't think it's great for painting, but it's a great monitor for gaming. So I imagine their MSI flat panel monitors are probably pretty good. Excuse please. Dell 24 IPS for the last 9 years. Huh. Dell does great stuff too. I used Dell when I worked at Sony. Anyway, where were we? We were painting the punchable monitor. Hiya! Piece of shit. Argue with me? I'm the art daddy. We upset Gareth in his stream because we were doing the daddy joke too much. It was great. He does not like the daddy joke. The deadline for Patreon crits is the 9th, yeah. I don't care when you get it in, just so long as it's dated the 9th. Are you rushing on finishing one up, Demage? You should be painting right now, man. Come on. Get on that shit. Get your painting. You'll submit one tomorrow, Irina? Great. Hopefully, it will be one that is NDA free so that we can show it on here, because everybody should see your lovely paintings. You are quite good. I think this should not be a finger here, even though I've kind of designated it as one already. Let us let's do something else with this bit of tech. We have a lot of similar shapes, and it's very easy with tech to kind of break those rules of rhythm in design. You still want to try to adhere to some of those basic concepts of variety and visual interest. A bit more than you can chew. Hey, that happens. Get it done. Got a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn for all of us. Come on. Yeah, painting late, that's part of the game. I don't know about this transition. I gotta find a way to make it more interesting. Transitional points, I know I've mentioned this many times, but transitional points in your designs are the real laborers in the shot. It's easy to paint a face, it's easy to paint a robot. Painting the face connecting to the robot, that's where shit gets tricky. That's where you should definitely put in some time. You'll like this one, Thug. I don't have to, but I've been kind of charged with taking a look at the new studio's logo. No matter what level I attain, I still have to do graphic design. It will be interesting, but I guess because now it's something that I'm gonna have to wear, on a t-shirt. I gotta put in some time on it and make it look nice. Yeah, graphic design is not my forte. I struggle with it. I like coming up with ideas, but actually making this stuff is what my Izzy logo. The one that the Z bolt comes from. That's the logo I did. What was that? 2 years ago? Oh shit! It wasn't even 2 years ago. I did that last year. Jesus. I did that when I first moved to Puerto Vallarta, I think. Right? God. Alcohol. Oh, I definitely got to put the Izzy logo on some swag for myself. But no, the logo for the new studio I just joined. Because, I mean, it does... They don't even have a logo yet. That's how new that shit is. What size does everyone have as a main monitor? Yeah, I'd say mine is... No, actually, the flat that I have that I really like is 24, and it's actually big. It's plenty big. But yeah, 27 is sexy. Yeah, I think I'm gonna... I don't know if I'll do it because they've actually hired a graphic design agency and a marketing agency to do all of that stuff and help them build. But I guess they're not pleased with what the agency's churned out. And I've looked at the logos myself, and I can see why they're design-wise they're competent, but theme-wise they don't have that special something. You know what I'm saying? Like they just feel kind of like lazy answers to the problem. So I can definitely see why they're not pleased yet. So then the task for me will be to try to find a way to creatively answer that specific need. I think if you can capture theme in the identity in the logo all in one go, it can be really good. But that's also, again, it's just not something I'm really great at. Like even my logo, I don't think my logo fits me at all. It's a good, clean logo, sure. But is it Izzy? I don't know. I've actually had to kind of alter some stuff just to kind of match it up. For example, I mean, these colors that we have here in the light are designed to match the colors from my logo, not the other way around, right? If I get enough thug bolts to give me a critique, okay. When are you going to start broadcasting, Ham? I can't wait. Yeah, I think my logo came out all right. I don't think like I said, it feels more corporate than maybe is correct for me. But everything I tried to do that was more thematically like this, what I'm painting, it felt very Hot Topic, and I didn't want that, you know? Maybe I need to rethink my life. I'm just like a 14-year-old goth girl at heart. Listening to my Birthday Massacre and smoking my cloves. Painting robots with ball gags. I mean, it's just embarrassing. Sometime you gotta grow up, right? You're not a fan of purple? Hammy, get out. Your kind aren't welcome here. How can you not like purple? Purple's the best color in the whole world. Followed closely by pink. I must confess that they are very difficult colors to design with. But I like doing everything the hard way. It's just kind of my MO. So even with your purple prejudice, you enjoy my logo, is what you're saying. It's the color of indecision. Oh, sir, you have offended me thrice. Unacceptable. It is not the color of indecision. It is the color of boldness. This is the color of bravery. Is there such a thing as a monitor too big for painting? No. I mean, the monitor that I've got is gigantic. The question is how much of it are you going to be using? So in this case, I've literally shrunk the pixel size that's visible just because this is the broadcasting that I've got doesn't a lot for that size, or I haven't given it the parameters to a lot for that size. I don't need the whole monitor. It's too big. So you can go as big as you want. It just will not. You won't use the whole thing. even in this that I'm using right now, because I don't zoom in that much. Like all of this space over here, underneath where the chat box is at and stuff like that, I don't use it. There's a reason the chat box is there. It's because I barely paint in that region. I knew that you guys would never really see the brushwork in that side. You know what I'm saying? Isn't purple a royal color? You feel that Bax is... I really don't know. I think you just enjoy being a contrarian, sir. And you just cannot appreciate the glory and wonder of the purple color. You just, you exist in a limited spectrum. That's all. I forgive you. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good rule. If you have to move your head, it's too big. Mine is big enough that I would have to move my head if I was using the full thing. And I don't use the full thing, so. He has your answer right there, I think. He's right about almost nothing, but I'll give him that one. Cypher agrees. Purple is the best. We'll have none of your naysaying. Yeah, I think that whole rarity of the dye and the cost of, and the fact that it's just so expensive proves that, in fact, you are 100% wrong. It is absolutely a color of great intent. I will hear none of your naysayery. Says the Englishman. I can't take you kids anywhere. I swear. I have no idea what this bit's meant to be, and I'm slowly growing to hate it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut it out. Let's do something else with that. Come on, you bastard. Oh yeah, no worries, Irina. I know exactly how you feel. I always ask my friends for help there, especially with tech stuff, because I'm such a slow adopter of things. I basically go to two people for information on tech, and Thug is one of them. So long as I'm not asking about Apple products, which are all garbage. Except for my iPad Pro. I love my iPad Pro. Yeah, I would definitely hold off on the Apple products, specifically the iPad Pro, because it's the only really good thing, until you can have a job that's going to pay that direct. Like, one of the things that I've done when it comes to buying tech, like I did with this computer, for instance, is I will allot a specific gig, the payout from that, to self-investment, like improving my gear, or some aspect of just investing in the business itself, which is the art stuff. So, I would say just put it on the back burner for now, but it is a tool that I think you would probably get a lot of use out of. Don't let the kids play with it. That's the key. Believe me, you don't want to be replacing fucking... How much are those pens? How do I use mine mostly? In terms of work, I used it a lot when I was on the boat because it was very light on power consumption. It was used mostly for, I'd say like 80% in Procreate. I would use some of the 3D programs there, kind of like Christina does, to sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? To pose like figures and things like that, screen grab it. There's an app on there called Handy, which it lets you control hands and feet, and I think like maybe face structure, and put lights around them. So it's kind of like having a maquette with a light. It's like all portable right there. I would also use it for writing. I'd say 20% of that was, did I say 80 already? 70% art, 20% writing on Scrivener and Final Draft Pro, and then maybe 10% for gaming. It's an awesome device. I really like it, despite it being an Apple product. Can you do plein air with it? Yes, you can. There is going to be glare, but you can build a shadow box for really, really cheap out of foam core and control the glare. The other thing you can do is buy a... you don't even really need to invest in anything big. Just get yourself a really big sun umbrella that has... And then you can line the interior with black felt or something like that. Just that something that's going to... prevent sky fill from changing the color or from putting too much glare on whatever it is you're working on. And you can paint outside no problem. It's pretty easy. Beginner use the iPad Pro when away from home and mostly sketching. I was planning to use it. I have not been able to get around to it. I've just been too busy with other stuff. But I was planning to use my iPad Pro for Inktober because I just really didn't want to. I didn't really want to mess with my... After I started one sketch with inks, and I hadn't opened up any of those brushes since last Inktober, and it was just... They just laked all over the place, and I did not want to deal with, 2 days of cleaning again. So, yeah, I'm going to do it on the iPad when I finally get to do some of them. All the Apple hate. Most of the Apple hate is performative, and it's just for Thug's sake, because he's such an Apple fanboy. And I love trolling him about his Apple love. Or buy a tent. I suppose maybe not a tent, but a tent fly would work great. You could put up a tent fly and block light with that. The key is whatever you're going to use to block light, you want to make sure that it's black on the inside so that you're not getting light coming through it, because that's still going to create a glare, but it's going to give it a lot of color. So either way, it's a lose-lose. What you want is something that's going to block light rather than just change the characteristics of it. Does it not hurt your body in terms of posture? It depends on how you paint. Like, thank you for the follow, Sider? Sid? No. Side ear. Going with it. Thank you so much. Correct me, if you would. I would say, in terms of posture with your iPad, there's a lot of people that have streams that you should be following here that use iPads. I know Autumn, Art, I think it's, I forgot the name of his channel. One sec, let me see. Channel. Where would that be? In about? No. Well, now's not the time to search there, I guess. Art has one. Where the hell are you, bud? Oh, Art Turkel. That's right. That's it. ARTURKEL. He's got a channel on here. He works on an iPad sometimes. And my other buddy, Daniel Landerman, also does it. His is Daniel_Landerman. And they're both here on Twitch, and they both use iPads. So you can ask them pretty specific questions about iPad work because they work on them frequently. And it's really good stuff. So drop them a follow for sure. And you can ask deeper questions of them. But for myself, not using it as frequently, I would say the posture issue is entirely dependent on how you draw when you're drawing on a sketchbook, because it's very much like drawing on a sketchbook. Oh yeah, Evan, of course. Evan does all of his work on an iPad as well, and he streams. I just assume everybody's following him already. Everybody and their mother follows Evan. But if you're not following him, follow him. They are all of these. I'm pretty sure all of these guys are featured down below when I'm not streaming, and I host all of them, I think. So absolutely give all of them a follow. They all do great art, and they're good fonts of information. But yeah, anyway, so for posture for me on my iPad, I draw mostly when I'm laying down. I very rarely kind of draw on a close-up surface, like hunched over it. Yeah, maybe if I'm having a drink or something at a bar, I'll draw like that. But I prefer to draw like kind of close up and flattened out. So for me, that's how I draw on my iPad too. I imagine, yeah. For me, I would imagine that all of my time being done on an iPad, it would eventually hurt. But again, it's how you do it. That said, if you are going to get the iPad for work, get the big one, the 12.9. Don't get the small one. It will be tempting to get the small one, and technically you can do the work, but that little bit of difference is significant in terms of how you can move around over the canvas. And of course, Procreate. Like, I cannot recommend any other program as much. Honestly, in a lot of ways, I like Procreate more than Photoshop. Photoshop does a lot of stuff that Procreate can't do, and I'm just so embedded in it from having worked in it so long. But if you can start now with Procreate, I think that's going to be a pipeline that and working process that is much more intuitive for artists. Like, learning Photoshop, and some of you are in the process of teaching yourselves Photoshop right now, it is an uphill battle. And a lot of it doesn't make sense. There's a lot of UI nonsense and silly, weird ways of doing things. Yeah, the iPad is surprisingly light. As long as you don't add any like foo-fra on it, just by itself, you can hold it like a slate and work with it up close. I've done that. John Silva did a lot of streams on the iPad Pro and fairly detailed paintings. Yeah, I've done detailed paintings on the iPad. I've done magic cards on the iPad. I think it's a great product and it works really well. Yeah, no worries. Hopefully that helps. I have thought about doing some streams with the iPad. I got to figure out how to set it up. I got to talk to Spiridon and Evan and see, or Daniel. Check with those guys. See what I need, if I need some special dongle. Part of the reason I hate Apple products is they always have these damn bloody damn proprietary hookups and shit. This pisses me off. Everything feels like a money grab with those guys. Oh, it's an app. Okay. Well, I'd want to be able to hook it up to my cameras and stuff. I know that. So that we'd still be using this camera. All that good shit. Think you can send the iPad screen to the PC? I think so. I think there's some way to connect the issue is just the dongle. Like, what do I need to connect the iPad to the PC so that it reads the screen there? Because I'm pretty sure OBS, which is my streaming application I'm using, takes that as an input, a video input, which should be fine. Irina, there's definitely other products that are doing similar, or other companies that are doing similar products. Like there's the Surface, but from what I've heard of from users, it's just not as stable or as well tested. I mean, in a lot of ways, Apple really got a head start with the iPad in particular. I think they took a lot of wrong turns with it, in particular avoiding implementing a stylus for a long time. Thankfully, they did not take Jobs' advice on that one. But they just had a head start. Every other every other company is having to play catch up and figure out their own version of it and what they can bring to the table. Sometimes being the first one out of the gate is all it takes. Actually, a lot of times, not just sometimes. Yeah, maybe in time. Ollie Hammer, welcome. You use the Surface Pro with CSP. You love it. No monthly fee. That's pretty good. Yeah, I'm not about the monthly fees either. And the Pro comes with, or sorry, the Surface comes with its own stylus too, right? You don't have to pay for that separate. I think that's one thing they definitely have going for them. The idea that you need to, that again, this is one of my biggest pet peeves with Apple is their bloody peripherals and their dongles and proprietary power systems. Just obnoxious. We get it. You're a special and unique snowflake. And don't get me started on the home button for iPhones. Yeah, the Apple Pen is fucking expensive. Well, maybe it's well designed now, but the model that I have is the kind that you have to charge from the top end. That is a terrible design. Possibly one of the worst designs I think I've ever seen. So I disagree there, at least with the older model. It is terrible. With those pads, let me pull up my slate here for a second. So with those, like let's say this is the iPad, right? With the old one, you would take your pen, pull off the cap at the back, and then plug it in lengthwise like this, right? What do you think happens when you're, like, you bump that, it's sitting on the table, you drop it, snap. You're gonna, I don't know how many people probably broke their stylus. It's a terrible design. As soon as I saw it, I was blown away. Like, that's such an obvious mistake. Either that or it's done by design. And I can't stand designed obsolescence. It's one of the things that makes me the most mad with modern technology is purposefully making things so that they break easier. It's obnoxious. Sometimes they do deals that include the keyboard and stylus. Oh! So the stylus is not part of the setup. That's interesting. I was going to give Microsoft some credit there, but nope. You know, the coconut chips just don't taste as good when they're not from the floor. Maybe it's just me. I don't think this cast shadow works anymore. Yeah, I have not broken my pen yet. The stylus rather for the Apple, but it's because I am super vigilant and scared of breaking that thing because they're so damn expensive. But just as a design, like as an industrial design product, it is terrible. It's completely thoughtless or malicious by design, and that bothers me. There's a few products like that that just, they just irk me. They feel like personal insults. It's all the salt from my disgusting sweat. Probably. Scared is the right word. It was included with your Surface. But now you have the Slim, so it fits in the keyboard. That's cool. Very cool. Oh, here's another example of design I really hate. This is the phone I use. It's a Galaxy Note. This is an 8. I think they're out with the 10 or the 11 now or something like that. But they've started doing these curved bezels right here on the sides. I hate them. They don't actually serve any purpose, and they make the glass much weaker and less protected. And I'm pretty damn careful. It's very rare that I'll actually break a screen. You can't see it, but my screen is a little bit, there's a crack in it because of a little escapade where I was trying to break out of a marina. We'll leave that for another story another time. But anyway, I cracked my phone, and since the top part of the phone itself, the touch screen doesn't work anymore, which is kind of miserable. Makes me mad. And it's all because of that curve. If that curve wasn't there, that wouldn't have cracked like that. Why put that there? It doesn't actually give me any benefit. It's weird. I understand wanting to make a thin device, but I think in a lot of ways Apple has that one better, again, because they just do nice trim aluminium for some of you, edge that's clean. You don't need to, the bevel doesn't, it's so much effort for not really a lot of reward, and it's a major weak point. Bad design, in my opinion. That's probably, I like to think about that stuff sometimes because, I do design, a different kind of design, and it's something you should be mindful of and think about, because in this case, having experienced similar things and had people complain about stuff that I've worked on, I have a feeling that probably there was some kind of managerial influence there that made them kind of adopt some strange shape, like, oh, we need to have something super different, we want to stand out in this way or that way. I saw a movie that has this in it, so yep, there's a chance that the designer hates it too, and they just had to do it. That's how it is sometimes, gang. Sometimes it's not in your control. For fuck's sake. Color picking you. Jesus. Yep, money rules the world. Yeah. Today you realize you're on Photoshop 2018 version after all the updates you're installing? Oh, honey. Oh, no. I'm on CS6. I don't even know. I think that's like 20... I want to say 2009, 2010, something like that. You are doing fine. Don't worry about it. And I do that willingly. I don't want the new products. That's not a purism issue, really. It's that I know it's better the devil I know, right? That kind of thinking. Oh. This earring is quite sore underneath these monitors. I gotta take them off. Oh. A little bit better. I'm tender. Owie, owie. Tender earlobes. All right. Back to the point here. What was I bitching about? I don't even know what I'm talking about half the time. Don't listen to me. I can't be trusted. I am not a reliable narrator. I was bitching about Photoshop. Yeah. Sounds about right. Ouch. Oh, you love the foliage episode? That's awesome. Thanks. I'm glad you found it useful. Oh, geez. I completely forgot that I was actually painting a specific person, and I've completely changed with this jawline. Nah, I'm not worrying about it. We're just going to keep going. Yeah, the foliage episode was a fun one because it's something I've been studying recently, trying to get better at painting forests and stuff. I try to share new things I learn as fast as possible because it's still fresh in my head and how it applies. There's a point usually for me once I've learned a thinking process or a new skill, there's usually a point that kind of kicks in where I stop, where I no longer think about it, and it's just sort of second nature or it's habit at a certain point, and I'm like, yeah. When it's fresh and I'm still feeling like I just conquered something or just figured something out, that's when I want to share it because I'm still at the closest point to not knowing how to do that thing, and thus able to communicate it a little bit better, in my opinion. Once it becomes second nature, it really requires sitting there and thinking about what was this like, what were the things that I needed to know, you know? So I want to make sure that all of my lessons are valuable and clear. That's probably the hardest thing about how I teach is I put in all that effort specifically to make the concepts concise and not a bunch of artsy jargon. But man, it is a challenge sometimes. Perfect timing for you. You're painting an elf in the forest. Is that what you're going to be showing us? A forest elf? Yay! That's awesome. Can't wait. I'm sure you've improved at your leaves painting. No doubt. You have a toucan in your painting? Nice. Wow, it sounds like this is going to be quite an eclectic mix of crits. You're a druid at heart. Your house and garden are full of plants. That's awesome. I'm kind of jealous. Every plant I've ever had died almost immediately. What's the opposite of a green thumb? Yeah, I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Share your, you should all share your art stations. Irina, you may have to permit a bunch of links. I don't know if everybody can share their links, but yeah. It's all about building the community, guys, so share and help each other. This is the place. It's a brown thumb. Hey! That sounds borderline racist. Racist. No, I'm definitely a murderer of plants. If you don't have an ArtStation cipher, you should have one for sure. Basically, ArtStation is it's like DeviantArt next level. I'd say DeviantArt still has its place for sure, but since we all started there, I think the two have probably benefited each other a lot. I feel like ArtStation based a lot of what they've done on DeviantArt and some other sites that existed not too long ago, and which I can't remember the name of, to be honest. I think what their goal was to be the new conceptart.org. I'm not sure if they've pulled that off, but I'm not sure, honestly, if anybody could pull that off. Maybe it was just a product of the time and the people, but I appreciate people trying to do it. But yeah, it's a good idea to have an ArtStation if you've got a fair portfolio already. Plus, they have a portfolio page, which is pretty great. So you can have your own personalized portfolio. I do love being in nature too. I really like being out in it. I'm just really bad at bringing it home and keeping it alive. Honestly, the fact that my dog is still alive is kind of a miracle. Everything else I've ever had that was alive that lived in my house has died. Wait a minute. I'm possibly undead. I wonder if I'm a Lich King. Come on, Cypher, you gots to do it. Faux show. That's awesome. Maybe these part lines are too thick. Not sure. Maybe I need to increase the bevel. Yeah, that's a bit better. That means that I need to increase the bevel of the light side too, so I gotta remember to do that. That's awesome. You guys already follow each other. I need to start a social media account with about 3 to 4 paintings and see how it goes. It's a good idea. The key with that I'm finding, at least with social media, is just like consistency. Yeah, fucking thing. Let's see. Can I get away with? Nope. Let's not clipping mask that. You have an old account, you don't even remember making it? Actually, that's how mine was too. I've done that with so many things. I've made a habit because there is another Izzy Medrano out there who's a young mother and posts lots of photos of her children. I guess she's not that young anymore because I've noticed that she was starting to pick up the media accounts, social media accounts all over the place quite a while ago. So anytime something new comes out, immediately I go in and try and camp on it because she got Instagram. I think she got Facebook. She got I can't remember the other ones. But she got a bunch of them. So now anytime a new social media thing starts, I go in immediately and grab Izzy Medrano. Because she's so fast, she gets them all. So we're like in a competition. But yeah, so I remember I signed up for Twitch immediately as soon as it started, and my Twitch was dead for like 3 years, 4 years, something like that. I didn't add anything to it. I just camped on it. Exactly. And the same thing with my ArtStation. I went and camped it because I wanted to make sure that I could actually have my name. My name on Facebook is Izzy Pants. God damn it. And I had to do for Instagram, which is probably arguably the most important one because it's basically just social media for image making, is the Izzy Medrano, which is just embarrassing. She's good. I gotta give her credit. She's good. She beats me at every step. Is she an artist? No, I don't think so. She's just a cool lady. Likes to post pictures of her kids. I do remember a long time ago, I was starting to buy. I started to get into buying URLs. So for my different projects, every time I come up with a new project name, I'd buy the URL for it. But the one URL I could never get was izzy.com. And finally, I just wrote to the people and was like, I really need this. I need this URL. I'm willing to pay. Willing to pay well for it. Would you be interested in selling the URL? And at this point, they weren't even. In fact, they may still not even be using it. Izzy is some kind of server setup or something like that. They don't even have a website, but they will not sell me izzy.com, which just guts me. I want it so bad. I think Instagram is the best one, but also seems really hard to break ground in. Yeah, for as a social media, Instagram's really tough. A lot of my friends have been very successful with it. Like they're, many of them are in the 100,000 mark and above. I've got a couple that are nearing, 500,000 and 1 million. It's insane. I'll never get close. I'm just not good at social media. I think my Twitch is a perfect example of that. It's just not in my blood. It's all right. It's not for everybody. I can try, and that's about it. That's horrible. I hate everything I just did. I need to go and sit in a corner for a while and contemplate why I exist. Hills and valleys, gang. If you do not know what I'm talking about, check out my first Logic of Light and Color episode that is free on the YouTube. Depends on what you're wanting to do with it. Possibly. I mean, no matter what, it's a useful thing to have and hopefully to be successful with in regards to social media. If you make art at all, you already have the art gigs. Somebody wants to sell prints. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, there are a lot of artists that have done similarly with Twitter and built their following there. So I think both are pretty viable for an artist trying to push into more social media and advertising through community. It's viable. IG is good for that. It's just tough. What's weird now, though, is with art jobs. I mean, I even had art jobs where I interviewed. I think I told you guys this many sessions ago by now, that I have had interviews where they would ask, how many followers do you have? And like that matters now. It does. I've been turned down on, I approached publishers about making books. They asked how many followers I have because they want to implement your following in their advertising because a following is in some ways a percentage of a following is already guaranteed engagement. Yeah, absolutely, Irina, it's true. So, like, this is kind of the rough breakdown. If you have, let's say, 1,000 followers in any given application, there's a rule of like 10 to 7%. So 10 to 7% of the people that follow you will regularly engage. So if you have 1,000 followers, you can count on roughly 70 to 100 likes, for instance. If you have, out of that, I think it's something like 7 to 10% of those are engagements that would actually purchase something. So out of the 70 to 100, maybe 7 would actually buy something at any given time. So it's a numbers game. The more people that you have supporting you, the more likely you're able to get a following that actually takes that next step of engagement, which is beyond just interacting and is purchasing, is taking part in whatever it is you're trying to develop and so on. That's the game you have to play. Yes, they absolutely want to leverage your followers. It's kind of scary. So that's the reason that a lot of like Twitter and Instagram, my eyes are trying so hard not to flutter and roll back into the back of my head, but influencers make buckets of money because they have so many followers and they're able to leverage your followers. Exactly, guaranteed sales. So that's kind of the game. If you're doing social media as an artist, a lot of people, I mean, it can really mess with you. A lot of people are trying really hard to push into greater followership because it can directly affect their career, it can directly affect sales, and that makes it even more competitive. That makes an already super competitive and at times toxic environment more so. It's tough, man. It's tough these days. So that's where it comes back to kind of like figure out the things that make you happy about whatever it is you're doing and focus on that stuff first. I reckon if you make things and it pleases you to make those things, you're on the right track. Don't worry about the rest. Just paint things that'll make you laugh when you're alone on a boat in the middle of nowhere. And life will find a way. That's why you prefer plants to people? Because plants, you don't have to worry about plants liking. What if they die? That's worse. Irina, that's worse. Murderer. try not to kill them. It's just in my blood. They want to live? I don't believe it. Alright, I've been avoiding this robot bit for quite a while now, with all my blabbing. Let's get back to the robot. Stupid robot. I bit off more than I can chew. Hate it. Pure poops. I'm just painting poops now. You know what? Fuck it. Accent values and I'm done. Oh, I gotta do my reflected lights. It's just not worth it to noodle on something that I'm not feeling anymore. So I will just get it to finish, I guess. Real quick and dirty. Avid, the line of souls I've broken stretches from here to hell. This is terrible. I should not even be allowed near paints. Ha! Get enough. Meh. Meh. I don't want to do any more. Meh. Ah. That's sweet, Cypher. I appreciate it. Just do the line, you pig fucker. This is where like lazy Nezumi or something like that would be amazing. Cheating, cheating. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Bucket. Good enough. Eh. Ruh-roh. I am over it. I have reached the collapse of caring. There's a certain point. It hits us all. We're just like, I don't care anymore. Well, I think one of the things that helps with that kind of last minute detailing for when you're just kind of bleh about shit is making sure that you build up the whole image at the same time. And I did not follow my own rules so well with that, so here I am. But I basically finished out my focal point. So at this stage, I can kind of add some basic details to supporting structures and not fuss too much about it. And I can just kind of go meh and just make stuff and add details and get away with it, because as long as these details that I'm adding are dense enough that they marry well with the really detailed things, I can get away with it looking like I put the effort in there. So it's that indication thing where you're just kind of cutting corners a little bit. But you have to, when you do this, you have to follow those essential rules of light. If you don't, and you just start pooping details in, it's not going to feel right because the lighting will be incorrect. But indication is such a huge part of it. It's just kind of getting the minimum amount necessary. No more, no less, right? It can be so tempting to overwork things. Like her face is way overworked. I overworked the shit out of it. So in some ways, what I'm doing now is going to be more successful and effective in terms of catching the eye and keeping visual interest, because it's a little bit more raw and sketchy. It's visually dynamic. It has the calligraphic strokes in it. You know, a little bit of fun, visual lost and found. This is in many ways the real juice. Do I think I'll do a lesson on painting a city similar to nature's backgrounds? I don't think it will be this lesson, but it's something that I can do in the future. Basically, the way I would approach it, and because I saw your note on Discord and was definitely kind of thinking about how I would teach that. And I think what I would do is to try to teach populating essentially detail density, which is very similar to what I'm doing right now. And I would teach painting cities like painting foliage. The problem is that we have not covered an in-depth lesson on perspective. And I guess that's basically what I'm going to have to do, is really an in-depth perspective episode, because I cannot trust that the stuff that is out there online would give you enough information in order to flub and do guespective the way I expect it to be done, to use those specific techniques. So, long story short, what I'm going to have to do is first do a couple of perspective episodes to catch everybody up to the essentials of perspective. The question then is that something anybody actually wants to pay for? Because I feel like that's always been one of the reasons why I've not done a perspective class, is because there's just so much information out there at the same time. It's kind of this catch-22 I've put myself into in terms of my requirements for what you would know to teach what I'd like to teach, and also me avoiding having to teach a perspective class, because that does not sound as interesting to me as painting stuff. So yeah, guespective, that would be a good lesson. But again, guespective can't really be taught without actually knowing perspective. So it's a catch-22. Hi, Dan Rob. Thanks. Yeah, a city is a lot of perspective. It's perspective, but it's also, there's a recipe system to it as well. Finding patterning and structures that fit the city. There's a lot to it, but the very base, most important thing that you need to know is essential perspective. You cannot bullshit that, unfortunately. Or rather, you can only bullshit it once you actually know how to do it. Which is probably a better way of saying that. Because I bullshit it all the time. I hate doing perspective. I do not enjoy it. Obviously, anybody that knows perspective would look at even this painting and be like, holy shit, this is a hot mess. Too much information online can be confusing. Yeah, you are probably right, Dimesh. It's a combination of the two things. One, my complete disinterest in perspective being a primary factor there, and then the other being that it's just everywhere. I took perspective in school. You guys will like this. The school I went to was a trade school, effectively. And so they found ways to kind of squeeze in, even so we were accredited as a university. We got university credit. But I did take a perspective class from Scott. He was not the only perspective class I took. In fact, actually, his was technically not a perspective class. His class was a visual development class in which he also taught perspective. I had a perspective class that was specifically for perspective. I can speak. And the way my school got away with it is that they called perspective class math. So I got university credit, and I barely know pre-algebra. Yay, American school system. Yeah. To be fair, perspective is hard. I didn't learn, my direct perspective class wasn't Scott Robertson, but he has a book out, he has a couple of books out that are very good primers for perspective, and I would definitely check his work out, his books, the Design Studio Press books for that. No, I did Art Center all the way through. That was my full college experience. So that was the only school I applied to and the only school I went to. Yeah, I still have it somewhere. It's probably in a box. I left like one box with Peter Hahn, which has all of my old stuff in it. And I think I still have that perspective book because we had to build basically it was a perspective guidebook from scratch. Like that was the full thesis assignment for the entire semester was to build this book from scratch, make a really nice, super clean presentation was everything at Art Center. So even like shitty charcoal sketches we had to mount on foam core and like wrap in shrink wrap and make them look super nice. So yeah, we had to make these really, really nice perspective manuals. So I actually have like a handmade, all completely hand-drawn perspective manual that I made from scratch for my perspective class. And that is actually the traditional system that Art Center teaches. So anybody that went to Art Center that went through the illustration program and took perspective has one of those books. You've got both of Scott Robertson's books, How to Draw and How to Render. Very good. It's almost too much, yes. Scott is an excellent teacher, but what he teaches is incredibly dense. I super value the information that he shares, but he also put me to sleep numerous times. It's very intimidating. I would say, honestly, in terms of outside of the perspective experience I had with Art Center, I would say the best book that I found for perspective, and I know I've already mentioned this to Irina, is Perspective for Comic Book Artists by David Barry, I want to say. Let me see. Dave Barry, I think is his name. David Chelsea, that's it. Yeah. David Chelsea's Perspective for Comic Book Artists is an incredible resource. I think it is beyond sufficient for you to learn almost everything that we covered in perspective class is covered in that book, except for reflections. I don't think that reflections were covered in that book. Although, if you think about them, they're very straightforward in terms of perspective. You haven't started on it yet? It's a good one. What I like about David Chelsea's book, and I absolutely confidently recommend that you buy it, is he managed to make perspective kind of fun and entertaining because it's a comic book about perspective. It's not just Perspective for Comic Book Artists. It's actually written as a comic book. So you follow along and there's a whole story, and it's really cute and kind of has goofy characters. It's really cool. I have always recommended that as my go-to for perspective manuals because it is really well thought out. He gives you lots of materials to work with, and he does it in a way that you cannot confuse with anyone else. I know that there was a big foofara over ink drawing manuals, right? With the guy that started Inktober, and it's tough because that kind of information is almost universal. So if you're trying to do a manual on a manual on something like that, doing it in a completely fresh and original way that cannot be mistaken for anybody else's is probably the way to go. So you can avoid some of the issues like that guy is experiencing. I am totally cheating right now using the color dodge brush, but I'm doing it built on a structure that supports abusing the color dodge brush. So if you're using color dodge, remember that color dodge is going to change values pretty significantly, and it's going to change your saturations. So you need to know how to paint lighting effects first before you play with before you play too heavily with a color dodge as an actual tool. It can get out of hand super fast. So be careful. Use it with caution. I want to do another one below everything. Let's do this. Maybe a color dodge, maybe a screen. Because I want it to glow behind and silhouette out these other elements. See how saturated it got? That's a little too much. So I'm going to knock it back, and I'm going to desaturate it slightly. I'm going to open up a saturation, hue saturation. Control U is hue saturation for those of you that don't play with that shortcut very much. Okay, that killed it down just a touch. I also want to kind of, let's do it here first. Let's drop the saturation, drop the brightness. I'm basically color picking what I just created. And I want to bring back some of these lost edges here, but I don't want it to be like kind of obtuse. I want it to feel like a heat haze is coming out of the back of this thing, like it's just opened up so that she's venting her head. It's too hot-headed in there. I can relate. I get a little spicy sometimes. I like this direction better, which I think was the original sketch. What else can we add to this sort of last minute? Just throw a little bit of juice, a little gasoline onto the fire. Let's see. Wait, spill the tea again. What happened with the Inktober dude? You saw that somewhere else. He basically, he made a how to draw with ink book, and somebody else, I cannot remember the name of the fellow, who recently published another how to draw with ink book, and there were a whole bunch of similarities. I haven't read either book. I can't weigh in one way or another. I only watched, honestly, Peter Hahn's take on it because, he's my friend and everything, and so I actually listened to him more. But it sounded like his take was that books like this are going to be similar no matter what. He pulled out a few books from like the 60s and 70s, which had the same exact information. So it's kind of tough to make, and it's a bit bold to make the claim that this information is particularly copyrighted or anything like that. And then I've heard that other people have argued that the paging and the wording is really similar and the layout is similar. So I don't know. I have no dog in the fight. Don't care. But my point is that with David Chelsea's book, there is no chance that anybody could think that the information that he's conveying, which is widely available and anybody can find for free, is not of value and not uniquely his own, because he found a way to convey it. It was completely fresh, and I love that. I think in some ways his book was a influence on the logic of light and color, and me trying to teach basically. The logic of light and color is a fundamentals painting class for advanced and intermediate painters, but I am not teaching you anything that you can't either figure out on your own or learn through just going through traditional teaching. You know what I'm saying? What I try to do with it is put my own slant on it, make it concise, make it clear. I come at it with a thesis in how to teach that stuff, and that's what makes it unique to me, I think. And that was the goal, anyway. Is that a little smiley face or like a rabbit nose on the front? It's like I don't know. It's a little smiley face. It's drooling, I guess. Like this could be that could be an image in and of itself. I got all these little kind of sub compositions because I know that down the line when let's say when I post this to Instagram, I'm going to want to do little zoomies, little zoom ins. You got to go, Damage. Hey, thanks for hanging out. Sorry if I missed you. Wake up early tomorrow. Awesome. God night. I love it. Do I have advice for a live figure drawing study? Did you ask that before and I missed it? I'm sorry. Or was I... You did ask that before. I'm sorry, Arena. I know you're up late. I should have answered that. Advice for live figure drawing study. Well, that really depends on what you're looking to get out of it, what mediums you're using. Are you hiring a model in-house? Are you having, a loved one sit for you, something like that? What is your plan? What are you planning to do? You're going to attend a session online with a model. Okay. Let's see. Online session's going to be tough. Or is it instructed? That's probably the most important question of all. Will there be an instructor that you can ask questions of and things like that? It's mostly uninstructed. Okay. Oh man, that's tough. So you have my figure drawing and gesture drawing lessons, right? I think you do. You've been with me for a long time. I would dig those out. The concepts that I teach you in how to pull the action line and the sort of the base sketch structure of a figure from a photo are exactly what you're going to do with a figure that you're looking at. But you have all the lessons. What? Check you out. That's amazing. You're probably one of two. Thank you for that. So what you're going to do, let's see, let's pull up a new layer real quick. You're going to want to do a bunch of, if not all of your initial studies from a figure. You're going to want to do first kind of simplify the entire figure into whatever the action line is going to be for that thing, for however they're posed. Try and capture the big rhythm of their pose. Sometimes you're just going to be looking at like the head, a shoulder, and the spine, right? Or you'll be looking at, sometimes it'll be a spine like this, and then I'm just doing the same S. There'll be a spine like this, and then maybe there'll be a curve up like that. That's a leg. Capture that as quick as you can. And what you want to do with that is, if you have, let's say your picture plane is something like this, right? What you want to do is try to, in that initial sort of swoopy line, is figure out the rough proportions that are going to be for your entire image. If you're doing this, especially on a charcoal, on newsprint or something like that, try to do that line and map out. You're using this for two different reasons. One, to figure out the essential structure of whoever it is you're drawing, but also you want to use it to kind of map out your proportions. Because the one thing that's going to be your biggest enemy that you're going to be fighting all the time as you're doing this stuff. Beyond anatomy, beyond all that stuff, the root thing is proportions. And the mistake that all of us, and myself included, make when we are doing traditional figurative studies is we get focused in on the anatomy and all of the fun, juicy stuff, and forget that the canvas itself is one of the contributing factors to how your proportions are going to work. So when you're doing figure study, try to do the entire figure in every drawing. Do your very best to get the head to the toes, always in the entire image. This is going to force you to analyze the relationship between the proportions and the contours of the figure and the canvas as a whole. You are never ever drawing in a vacuum. There is no endless space you're drawing in. I mean, technically that can happen. You're on Procreate or something like that. It's totally possible. But it's important to think about the entire picture plane, because even with a simple, super quick 15-second gesture, you are composing an entire picture space, right? So when you're composing, compose for that figure to be carefully balanced and have an interesting composition within the picture frame. Got it? So get that line down first. Start laying out your big shapes. I like to go kind of torso and hips maybe, or if legs are a big feature, get the legs in there, right? I don't know why I'm drawing a figure with their legs spread like that. This is Pervo channel, sorry. Just, you know what you're getting into. And then maybe a head, right? Arms. Okay, so in the very first 10, less than 10, honestly like 4 strokes, you want to capture as much of the essence of this figure as possible. If you didn't do it, scrap the page, do it again. What you want to be training yourself, especially in the beginning of doing figure study, is to get the swoop, get the motion, get the animation of the figure, capture the essence of it with the minimum amount of effort, the minimum amount of line, because everything else that you do is built on top of that. It's just like with logic of light and color, right? We cover the fundamentals of how light behaves and how form and shadow behave, and then everything else is built on top of that. It's all stacked on like armor that just strengthens the image that you make. This is absolutely true for your figure drawing as well. You want to build the skeleton, and I don't mean the literal skeleton. I mean, you need to build the fundamentals skeleton of drawing a figure, and it's going to be ideally captured in a few lines. So that's why most figure art teachers train you to do like 15-second, 30-second studies, and then they build up. This will probably happen in your class, so be prepared for this. You'll probably have a warm-up period. The warm-up period is where you do your quick 15, 30-second studies. Most models, this is another thing you have to remember, is when you're working with live models, you're working with a living person, and you have to work around that as well. So the warm-up is just as much for them as it is for you. They need to loosen up, get limber, start getting into poses, get comfortable with you and everybody watching. I mean, this is all part of the ritual, and you should treat it that way. Like, this is it's dorky, but kind of think of it as a sacred thing. I mean, they're helping you, you're helping, this is a relationship that's happening. So take that time, settle into it, do the initial studies. One of the biggest hang-ups that a lot of people have, and this is more of an in-person sketching thing, figure drawing thing, honestly, any kind of in studio with multiple artists issue, is people worry about having something that other people will have, that they can look at and be like, oh yeah, that's good. This is classic human condition stuff. Yeah, I want to be the best. Okay, I get it. Cool, totally fine. Don't worry about that shit if it helps. If you have to show your stuff, don't show your stuff if you don't feel like it. Just remember that these exercises are for you to master the essential building blocks of drawing out the figure, of composing a figure in a figure space, or in a picture plane. Okay? What else? When you're drawing your figure, like I said, the proportions are going to be everything. Proportions, it's way more about the proportions of the figure and how those all align, like arm to body relationship, but it's not exactly what you think. It's not the comic book proportion concept where it's 2 heads to an arm and 2 heads to a leg, this and that. You need to know that stuff, but only for sort of like relative understanding. The real relationship that you should always be focusing on when you're doing figure sketches, if it's not anatomical in nature, is the relationship of shapes and negative shapes. So positive shape or negative shape, it's an arbitrary phrasing. It's just shapes. So the proportion of the arm, right, or the leg right here, or the butt to the torso, right? Those proportions are important, but the proportion of the empty space between the chest, the elbow, and the leg is just as important. There are no shapes here that are wasted. You are not operating in a vacuum. If the shape is the face to the arm, to the leg, and it's just this outer shape, I'm going to cut to the quick, it's this outer shape out here, that's all important. The distance of the head to here needs to feel correct and relative of the distance to the elbow to here. It is not in a vacuum. So as you're sketching, even your initial first lines, you want to be thinking about how the proportion works, okay? And it's proportion of shape just as much, if not more, than proportion of body. Here's a more advanced question. When a model does move slightly, how do you go about it? Make changes or use the current information to fill in what you've already drawn? More of a personal question. Okay, so just like I said before, you are doing a collaborative work with a living person, a living thing. They're gonna move, always. You can never, even the most skilled and amazing model will move, they'll slouch, when they get back into the position after a break, they're going to be slightly different. This is where, if you're painting, the rules of the logic of light and color are important. That logic is going to be what helps you keep everything in line, even though they're not necessarily where they were before. Don't make a huge deal out of getting the model to sit back where they were. You can, if it's a big thing, like, their arm was up here and now like they're like this, you can say something. Say, hey, in the last pose you had your arm a little bit more on your head. Could you get back to that? Communication is really big. That's okay, and they'll happily oblige. I mean, you're paying for them to be there, right? But if their arm was like this before and their arm is like this now, just let it go. It's not a big deal. Just continue painting, continue drawing. What you're going to do is, this is why figuring out the proportions of those negative shapes and those positive shapes are simultaneously hugely important. Because if you notice that the negative shape, let's say, okay, they're like this negative hole right here is one shape, and then if I move it, it's a different shape. Well, if you have that one shape before, you can reverse engineer and reverse extrapolate everything else. So if you drew the interior but you didn't draw the outside of the arm, you still have the relationship that's here, right? And now you can guess the relationship that's here and here. So that measuring thing that they're doing when they're doing this stuff, right? And they're like squinting and looking in a line, that's what they're doing. They're measuring objects against each other, usually in order to help make it easier to measure where a figure is proportionally in the greater picture plane. So measurement, if you already have outlined and have some very solid anchors in how the proportions of different shapes are supposed to behave, you can measure and then kind of figure it out and reverse engineer. Does that make sense? When you were in school, you remember your teacher getting mad at students complaining about the model not being exactly in the same spot. Exactly. I mean, the model's not perfect. Nothing about what's happening is perfect. Your goal is to develop an eye for understanding relationships of shape, color, form, volume, all that stuff. It's not about haranguing a model for not being exactly in the same spot. If you are, the problem though is not in the students complaining about that. Yes, it can be annoying, and yes, it will happen. But really, what the teacher needs to be doing is explaining to you exactly what I just told you. That it's not about getting an exact likeness. It's about studying and understanding the relationships of those shapes, forms, and the light. If you can get the proportions to behave, everything else will cascade into place. That's why I say the proportions are the most important thing. The proportions of the negative and positive shapes, and then how they live within the greater picture plane. If you get all of those and everything's behaving, you will have at least an accurate figure drawing. You may not have the anatomy just right, you may not have the shading just right, but the composition will feel correct. Makes sense? You did it last week, sketching with a pencil, but you were slow to shade. We'll do it digitally this time. I would say if you are not, so there's almost sort of like an advancement that happens with figure drawing, and you'll notice it. It's easier to notice this when you are working in a classroom setting, when you have actual natural advancement that's happening from lesson to lesson. But if you are just starting out with your figure drawing, shading should be the last thing you're thinking about. You really don't even need to consider it at this point, especially if you're doing quick studies. So how I would format it if I were teaching a figure drawing class would be to ensure that initially our first several sessions would just be quick sketching, because I want you to get used to what I just did, laying out overall shapes and figuring out relationships of negative and positive shapes. That's it. I would want you to get action lines. I would want you to get basic anatomy. Sure. Even structural anatomy, which is another thing that you can do in your studies, which is like just figuring out the tubes and the relative perspective of those shapes and breaking apart the figure into those primitives. That's also part of doing what we're doing, but it's a different kind of study. If you're doing what we're talking about, real quick compositional stuff, which is where I think you should start because everything else builds on top of that, then I would do quick sessions of that. There were 2 short sessions and 1 for 1 hour. That's when you got to shading. I would do an entire, like if you're meeting for 2 hours, I would do the entire 2 hours, like 15 seconds, 30 seconds, and then maybe the maximum would be 2 minutes. And that would be where I would start with that. Now, that can be tough to force yourself to do that if it's a class that somebody else has control of. The thing I would advise then would be to move around. So if they're holding a pose for 30 minutes and you want to do a bunch of different studies, I would move. I would make sure I was mobile and move every 2 minutes to a different spot and do quick sketches. You're in a tough spot because I don't know how many cameras they're offering. I don't know. I imagine that they're just using one, that they're not actually giving you a variety of views to draw from. So you're in a tough spot. Yeah, just one camera. You kind of have to follow what they're after. It's not going to be fun to just draw the same thing again and again and again. I get that. I think it might be worthwhile to supplement what you're doing with this class with one of those online pose programs, which is just like a website that collects stock photography, and set that up to be like 5 second, 20, 15 second, 30 second, and 1 minute poses, and do warm-ups either before you get into the long lesson or just periodically through the week as a supplement. Because those are going to be, again, those are the ones, like I was just showing you here, that are going to give you the structural knowledge you need to compose your figures in longer poses. Longer poses are, let's face it, longer poses are masturbatorial. That's all it really is. It's about like rendering and copying the light. Honestly, Irina, this is stuff you already know. You already know all of the logic that underlies lighting form. Analyzing it when it's from reality is definitely more fun. It's easier. You're going to find it's like taking off, it's like running with those jogging weights on. You take them off, and if everything is there before you, already figured out, it's so much easier to paint that instead of trying to invent it out of your head. I'm sure you've already experienced this. And it's fun. I get that. But if what you're wanting to do is expand the compositional aspect, these other aspects of creating the figure, you got to do this other kind of study. For real, it's going to be majorly useful. It'll help you. So these are some things. These are some of the benefits that I consider you will get from from quicker studies. And I'm saying all of this after years of doing this. I hated doing 30-second studies because no one ever explained to me what I just explained to you. I thought that I had to make figures look correct in 30 seconds and that they were assholes for trying to make me do that. It sucked. But the problem was is that what I thought was not really what was meant to be learned from that specific kind of study. So you have to rearrange your thought process. And this is one of those things I didn't learn until I got out of school. I was probably an awful student because I was always asking why. And a lot of teachers couldn't really explain why. But what they wanted me to learn was there, and I just couldn't accept it because there wasn't an answer for why. And so I was miserable with a lot of this shit. I was miserable with doing figure studies and these quick gestural things. I hated it because I wanted to paint and draw things that looked like they're supposed to look, right? I didn't understand that it was about the shapes, and they never explained to me that it was about the shapes. So I am telling you now that these things are actually valuable, even though I myself hated them, and I know why other people don't like them, but this is why they're useful. Hopefully that makes some kind of sense. So yeah, anyway. Oh yeah, Avid's given us a good site to pull from. That's a good idea. I have used them. Yeah, honestly, if they don't explain it to you, it is an annoyance. You only have enough time to just scribble something, and it's not satisfying because when we are taught the symbol of what figure drawing is, we see in our minds, these finished, beautiful rendered things, and they don't explain to us these progressive lessons and what you're meant to get from the progressive lessons. And again, this is why I didn't like these are the things I didn't like about the education that I got, because it took me a long time to figure out this is what they really meant. It felt like busy work. It felt like an insult to my intelligence. I imagine this is probably true for a lot of people, especially if they're smug assholes like me. These things do have great and valid value. It's just, you need to know why you're doing them. And I think a lot of people, I hope, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm an alien, but I think a lot of people think like I do and find them kind of boring and don't get why we're doing them. Absolutely, it's about understanding anatomy and also copying. It is about those things too, but you're not going to be able to copy anatomy in 15 and 30 seconds. So there, like I said, there's this progressive learning that needs to happen that builds on top of the previous thing. The reason that they start with these quick studies is to warm you up, get you comfortable, get you moving, get you listen to the music, you're listening to your John Williams scores and stuff like that. That's great. But the other part is to train you to start seeing positive and negative shapes very quickly. But they don't tell you that. I don't know why. Later on, you do exercises that are explicitly about this, like contour drawing, right? So that's where you only draw the outline of something, and you're supposed to think about the negative and positive shapes. But if you didn't understand that that's what you were training for with this stuff, then that feels like busy work and crazy bullshit too, and it's super annoying. If they just explained it, I feel like it would make so much more sense. You didn't appreciate gesture drawing until long after graduating? Exactly. Same. Totally the same. Honestly, even the first gesture drawings I started doing voluntarily after school, and I just did it for fun. I remember I went to a workshop with, oh God, I'm totally spacing on his name. He's the painter that paints those like candy-limbed goth characters. Cypher, you know the guy. I'm totally spacing on his name. He's got a long beard. Shit. He's a great artist. Really good. He does these cool gothic, like pale figures. crazy colors. Everything looks like it's made out of candy. Major influence on me, obviously. Anyway, I did one of his workshops, and the very first things I had to do to kind of warm myself up, and I thought at the time that it was just warm up that I was doing, because I didn't make that connection between these things. That was after I'd already graduated. That's how this works. Sometimes you don't get the help that you need, or the explanations that you need in order to take the steps that you should be taking. You'll focus on studying shapes, even in longer sessions, going deeper into shapes within shapes. Yes. Take time, even in the longer ones, really focus on not just the anatomy of the figure, but the shapes that are in between the anatomy, like the air that is not occupied by anything. Get your contours right. Make sure that the shapes that the sub-compositions, like we talk about in painting, are clear and make sense. If you were to take this triangle shape, I gotta move all my drinks out of the way because I'm sitting here blabbing all the damn time like an idiot. If you were to go in and you were able to take this shape, right? And this all carefully was worked out. So that negative, everything in there is perfect. If you were able to make a composition of that like this, whoops, and just cut this out, just this part, and it's still, even though it's completely abstracted, feels like what that body part is, then you're on the right track. Because the negative shapes, again, are just as important as the positive shapes. And they don't focus on that as much. So I hope that helps. That was a very long-winded answer. No worries, Irina. Happy to help. All right, let's zoom out. Let's turn off this layer for now. Let's see how we're doing. I think this is the one. I'm not going to mess with the legs anymore. It's still technically a sketch, I guess, from even when I first started it. But it's certainly more refined. I still like the first one better myself. But whatever, hey. Sometimes you just got to take the learning take the learning. Sometimes you just got to take the journey to learn. I swear I'm not drunk. I haven't been drinking, I swear. That's normally what I'm doing, but not now. Schmoove it. How's it going? I saw you slipped in there. Welcome. So yeah, anyway, I must get going, gang. I've got a bunch of other stuff to get to, including my Patreon. I need to finish all that stuff up. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself and learned some good shit with me today. If you're not following, hit that follow. If you missed most of the lesson today, all of this stuff does get uploaded to youtube.com/Izzy Medrano. So also you can hit a subscribe over there. Yeah, I think that'll do it. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Had a lot of fun. As always, paint smart, paint sexy. I'm Izzy, a professional writer, concept artist, and illustrator. I've taught painting for a dozen years or so, on and offline. Many of your favorite illustrators and designers have studied with me or under me and have gone on to teach in their own right. You're here because, like they did, you want to learn to paint realistically for illustration or concept art. Well, worry not. You're in the right place. Grab a seat. I want you to join me as I explain all the aspects of image making in extremely digestible and clear monthly lessons. Not through the lens of silly how to paint hair or eye demos. That shit is carnival tricks. And you're not really learning anything except an exact way to render one thing in one manner. This is painting mysticism at its worst. Watching these kinds of exploitative lessons won't help you level up with your understanding. Sure, now you can paint sparkly hair, but what if you want to paint a dragon, or figure out how to render a sea of fire, or depict a one-eyed transgender space marine dying in the vacuum of space? Painting and image making are tools of communication, and can be learned by anyone willing to put in some time. Like grammar is for language, light, color, and form literally follow a formula. Painting well is not a matter of chicken bones, zombie crackers, and the ever-dismissive concept of talent. Learning with my series, Izzy's Logic of Light and Color, will give you the tools and understanding so you can analyze light and form in reality and bring it to life in your work. Using this simple system I have distilled will help you harness your art to share your ideas as you've always intended. When we are children, we all draw in symbols. Symbols for our house, our hands, the sun, the grass, our pet lobster. As we grow into artists, we must learn to throw away symbols and begin to draw and paint what it is we actually see. And as we grow further, we learn to paint beyond what we see and what is actually there. Until finally we move beyond this and learn to trim away what is actually there so we voice only what we want. With me, you're going to have to buckle in and maybe take some pain meds, because I'm going to rip out your normal person's eyes and replace them with a painter's eyes. I'm going to restructure how you see and how you understand what you're seeing. I'm going to turn you into a painting machine. Truly, anyone can learn to paint realistically if they can both determine what they're seeing or imagining with basic and straightforward rules. Once you understand the mechanics of light, color, and form in reality, you will have the capacity to paint anything you can see or imagine realistically. After that, the real fun begins. Here are some of the ways you can join me and master the logic of light and color. The very first lesson of my series is totally free on my YouTube channel. In that lesson, I give you the 3 primary rules of light that are the very foundation of painting and understanding light itself. If you do nothing else to make your painting mastery easier, at least watch this amazing little lesson. It will do more for your basic understanding of light than just about any tutorial you can find. When you're ready to get deeper and you feel like you have those first rules figured out, allow me to utterly blow your mind with the next episodes available on Gumroad and ArtStation. As we go deeper into the rules underlying the logic of light and color, I carefully and simply explain important and interesting elements. From beginner to pro, there is an amazing amount of information available. Each concept has been distilled into the clearest explanation you're likely to find anywhere. Like episode 2, where we cover the atmospheric effect and how that relates to light, scale, and distance of objects in reality, and how to render it. Or episode 3, where I hand over the ultimate key to controlling value in your paintings. Episodes 5 through 8 are all about rendering materials. Want to understand the logic behind rendering metal, leather, hair, transparency, damn near anything. I even cover the logic behind painting special effects like fire, neon, or lightsabers in later episodes. The lessons just get deeper and more detailed as I build on the foundations covered in preceding episodes. The 10th gives you the most important rule of composition you'll ever learn to keep your images interesting. The next few episodes cover important painting techniques like my edge control ninjutsu or simplification with the large to small system. We dip a toe in color theory, devote a few episodes to finishing full-blown illustrations utilizing the techniques we've learned so far. Some episodes, like the lighting game or Advanced Exercises 1, the shirt, present cheap, valuable, and practical exercises to give you explosive growth in your development. Episodes 22 through 25 cover painting and illustration, just like I do for Magic the Gathering, from assignment and inception to signing the painting at the end. Each one is full of tips, knowledge, everything to make working as an illustrator easier. Did you enjoy learning how to paint basic materials? Metal, wood, and such? I got 3 whole episodes devoted to the intricate logic behind painting different kinds of skin. After that, more lessons devoted to pumping life into your portraits and original methods for accurately drawing faces out of your head. From fundamentals to photo bashing, Gumroad and ArtStation have every lesson I create available for purchase a la carte. But here's an even better way to learn with me. Stay current with my latest lessons on Patreon for the lowest price available. Monthly support gets my student that month's lesson, a critique or paint over of their finished work, a discount code for 25% off the entire Gumroad archive, and access to the Logic of Light and Color Discord community, where we plan future lessons, share knowledge, and learn together as a team. The absolute best method is to join my Patreon classroom at the Student Plus tier, where you'll get everything I just mentioned and a free episode from the archive every month to accelerate your mastery at your own pace. You've decided to take control of your painting and master Izzy's Logic of Light and Color. Now it's up to you to choose the path that's best for you. I'll see you on the flip side. Paint smart, paint sexy.